My relationship with my wife, Sam, has been rocky since our son Oliver was born 2 years ago. She got pregnant just a few months after we married, and things were fine until Oliver's delivery. I assume it's postpartum depression. Sam never sought out a specific diagnosis, but after he was born, it was like she couldn't care less about our child. We hadn't planned to have children so early into our marriage, and it was scary. But I can't describe the all-encompassing love that comes with being a parent. The fear was worth it for me. I was essentially acting as a single parent throughout Oliver's life, especially that first year. The only help I had, and I don't mean for that to sound diminishing, because this man was a godsend, was my best friend. Matt. The plan was for Oliver to be breastfed, but my wife had no interest in it after his birth. So I was the one changing diapers and mixing up the formula for bottles. And being in the house we shared felt so oppressive. The joys of bonding with my son were sucked out of me because of the energy there. So I would take Oliver to Matt's. I don't want to ramble on for too long, but there have been precisely 0 times in life where Matt hasn't shown up for me. I've known him since I was 19 and can safely say that even after all that time. But this is the most beautiful thing he's given me. I could sleep soundly knowing my baby would be taken care of. I had a place of refuge. He's so good with Oliver and is my shoulder to cry on. I don't think I'll ever be able to repay him, but I'm definitely trying every single day. The list of things with my wife have started to look up, but recent events have sent us on a huge downward spiral. Oliver was having some speech delays, but he's really been picking things up as his birthday nears. He's babbled data towards Matt and me for a while, but Daddy has since been added to his vocabulary, and that is used to refer to us both. I've never corrected him. I checked in with Matt to ensure he was fine, and he said that he was honored to be bestowed with such a title. Sam got to hear this recently when I was on FaceTime with Matt, and she went ballistic. As much as I hate to admit it, I did say he was more of a parent than she had been, which, while true, is hurtful. I need outside opinions on this. Am I the idiot for allowing him to call him Dad? I think you're going to get hammered for this one. I'm going with not the idiot for me, however. I've been hospitalized previously for depression, and I think it's amazing my now wife stayed. Stuff gets rough out there, but everyone gets to be happy. That includes you. Soft toss on, ask yourself if you're in love with Matt. Seems like you act as a couple. I don't think anyone would be asking Op to examine their feelings if Op were a woman describing a friendship with another woman. People need to stop the misogynistic assertion that men cannot be emotionally close and vulnerable. Us is vulnerable with one another. It's perfectly acceptable and healthy for 2 men to have an emotionally close friendship. Still, it should be more normalized so men feel more comfortable forming close connections with their buddies. But I feel like there's a huge part of this story missing. So the kid's a toddler, and you're still bringing him over there. It's without more details. I'll take your wife's side and say that it sounds like you're retreating to your friend's house, far too much like it's your family's house. Your wife is probably jealous or suspicious because you're gushing over this dude and putting her down. Like, really, you're putting your wife down way too much for someone that just had a kid with her? If she had these issues, have you brought them up? Has she addressed them? Do you communicate these feelings or just go to your friend's house? If his or co-parent partner, he should have called her doctor and told the pediatrician. Then they can point him in the right direction. He could also independently learn how to support a partner through PBP. He also started doing this when the baby was only 4 weeks old. Mom's stitches hadn't even dissolved yet, and he's playing house with his bestie and leaving his still bleeding and stitched up wife at home. You are the idiot, dude. You need to do more than suggest she see a therapist. You need to insist. This is no kind of way to live. Nobody chooses to be mentally ill. But what can somebody do if their partner refuses assistance? Help's primary concern has to be the welfare of their child. It annoys me how everyone talks about partners of people with depression as if they need to be entirely responsible for their partner in all aspects because of their depression and are an idiot. I don't. He has needs too, and so does his baby. And my 28th female and my husband, 34, married 2 days ago. My mother and stepfather walked me down the aisle. Backstory: my father, 48, and my mother, 47, had me when they were very young. Fortunately, they were in conflict for the first couple of years of my life, and my dad ended up leaving us. My mom went through a court case and ended up getting full custody of me, which wasn't that hard as my dad was nowhere to be found. A year after getting custody of me, my mom met my stepdad, 50 male, and fell for him immediately. They dated for a couple of years and then eloped. My stepdad legally adopted me, and we were one happy family. When I was 15, my mother told me that my birth father had contacted her and was trying to get in contact with me. She told me I didn't have to meet him if I didn't want to, but she thought it would be good for me to know my father. So I decided to meet with him, and he explained that at the time he wasn't financially stable enough to take care of me, and it was draining his mental health, which is why he left. However, I forgave him as he's still my father, and I wanted a relationship with him. I started meeting with him once a week and building an okay relationship. I still wasn't 100% sure about him, but I wanted to give him a second chance. When I went to university, my dad and I grew out of touch a bit, and I would only see him a couple of times a year, but I always had a relationship with him. Skip to 3 months ago. My fiancé proposed to me, and I was over the moon. I called my mother and stepdad immediately and told them, and they were ecstatic for me. I asked them at a dinner a week later if they could walk me down the aisle and if my stepdad could give me away. They said yes, and my stepdad was so thrilled that I thought of him that he cried when I asked him. A few days later, my dad called me, fuming. "Him, how could you not tell me sooner? As your father, I have a right to know first. Do you know how embarrassing it was that I found out at the same time as some random friend of your fiancé? I only told a few people, and that was because those people were in the wedding ceremony and therefore needed to find an outfit quicker than the people I sent the invites to. Pause. That's him. But I'm walking you down the aisle. I'm at the wedding ceremony. Right, and my mom and Josh, stepdad, are walking me. The Tim. You're supposed to be walked by your father, not some tramp your mom found on the street. Right. He's not some tramp. He's legally my father. He adopted me while you were God knows where after you left me. So he's more of a father than you ever were or ever could be. He hangs up. He responded to the wedding invite with a did not attend and hasn't spoken to me since. I don't know what to do as I want him in my life, but should I have just let him walk me down the aisle? Thought the idiot. His reaction says everything about him. It's not about you. He can't take back those life choices or redo all the missed years. He now sees the consequences and they hurt. That's his problem, not yours. I think your dad is confusing your guys' reconciliation with being an actual father. Just because you guys are on good terms, of course, that doesn't mean he's entitled to do fatherly things for obvious reasons. And I think that's where he's mistaken. It's not your fault he's mistaken. And if he's hurt, that's not on you either. It's on him for having the warped expectation of suddenly being a father just because you guys are cordial. He's being very immature and entitled. Why do you want him in your life? True, honestly, has he ever done anything for you? Has he ever gone out of his way to make you feel like a priority in his life? Has he ever made up for all the missed child support payments? Or is he just the kind of person who wants to have a kid, but doesn't want any of the responsibilities of having a kid? Because honestly, he sounds like a sad little person afraid of dying alone and not having anyone who will look out for him or take care of him. So he decided to demand a relationship with his kid. My parents hate my job and always call it playing on the computer. I'm a UI developer and I'm also a woman, so they consider it an inappropriate industry for me. And my brother works as a teller at the bank, which they brag about to their friends, as their son is a banker. I've always done better than my brother in school, sports, etc. But my parents always see him as better because he's a boy. So I've reduced my contact, especially since they're getting pushy with me for not being married at 27. Which last year, my father lost his job due to a round of layoffs and then suffered many health problems. My mother has never worked and can't speak very good English, so she isn't able to work. And their house isn't paid off, so now they risk losing their house. They've had to ask my brother for rent, and he pays about $400 a month, but their mortgage and other expenses come to be around $1,800 a month. And they can't afford it. So they've asked me for help, and I've told them no. I can afford it. I make 6 figures, but I'm still bitter about being treated like a second-class citizen since I was a child because I'm a girl. I told them to charge my brother more for rent, and they told me he has a girlfriend that needs to be able to enjoy himself. I told them they could figure out the wrong way to pay for it, and they were angry because they thought I needed to help them. After all, they raised me. Thought the idiot. Tell them you can't help them because you're just a girl. Oh, you have to save up your dowry since they can't provide it. Their mentality hasn't changed about your field of work. Their son still lives with them and only pays $400 in rent, but works as a teller at a bank. They don't need help. They need to start taking responsibility. Pretty sure that in OP's culture, it's inappropriate for a woman to take over a man's duties to his parents, as it is for her to work in that field. I don't care which culture it is, but she should stick to this principle. She'd emasculate her banker brother otherwise. Screw your parents. They can't treat you like a second-class citizen and then use you for gain. But their golden child of a son can get a second job. Don't give in. Keep your money. They don't deserve your support when they don't provide the same for you. You are the idiot. This is the story of every other house, but right now your parents need you. Whatever the decision you make shouldn't haunt you later when you grow up. But you're not. I understand pettiness and revenge, but you should make decisions that serve your benefit at the ends of the day. Personally, if I was earning 6 figures and could help my parents out, I would. I'd use this time to rebuild a relationship with them. If it doesn't work out, that's fine, but if it does, it serves you. I agree this is complicated, and the solution doesn't need to be binary. No, your family hasn't respected you, and giving them thousands of dollars every month is not a fair ask. But is there some in-between option where you could lend them money or purchase a stake in their house and get added to the deed? I would probably take a little different approach. Different approach for peace of mind. I would probably give them enough to cover 3 to 4 months worth of bills, which will give your brother time to save so he can pay the following 3 to 4 months' bills. That'll hopefully give your parents time to find work or sell the house. Or be the bigger person and explain it to them before. And if you decide to help them, though, okay, so I work from home. My husband, 38, is in construction. We both do 8-hour days, but he's off work about 2.5 hours before me because he starts earlier. So he picks up the kids from school and then goes to the gym and the bar down the street. You think like a Cheers situation where old guys get off work and sit around nursing beers and watching sports. Everybody knows your name situation. This is a more recent routine for him. He asked that I text him when dinner's made. This annoys me because it's a lot every day to get off work, open the door to your office, and immediately be thrown into watching kids and figuring out dinner. So to think about him casually sipping a beer and then popping up to enjoy a hot meal doesn't sit right with me. He asked again today and got annoyed when I said no. He thinks I'm being an idiot because it takes no energy for me to just text him, and he doesn't see the issue. Plus, he doesn't really help me cook when he's here, so what's the difference? I feel like you've already avoided all the work associated with the meal. Asking for a special alert for dinner on top of that is outrageous, especially when you already know I'm cooking and you live here. Plus, while he might not help when he's here, he sits at the kitchen island and we chat. So maybe I am the idiot because I would rather he be here. And I'm bitter about the text thing. I don't know. Is this a normal request? Thought the idiot. This would bother me too. Maybe tell him you would be happy to take turns. You might enjoy hanging out at the bar every other day, sipping a beer while his lordship whips up a meatloaf. See what he thinks about that. Does he want a special alert text? What? So he only has to be there for just dinner, but not any earlier. Does he might accidentally have to interact with you or the kids? You serious marital problems. Indeed. I think it doesn't sit right for many reasons that have been mentioned, but the request for a text communicates. I don't want to be at home a single second longer than I must be, so please alert me so I can maximize my away time. I'm angry on your behalf. He can wrangle the kids while you cook dinner, or he can do some housework. Okay, this sounds stupid, but it's driving me nuts. I recently got a job at a climbing gym. We have bouldering and ropes. I got a call from a lady asking if it was inappropriate for a group of little people. Now, I assume she meant, people with dwarfism, short-statured people, etc. It's not like we have a policy for that, but I know people with some forms of dwarfism might have issues with their bones or joints or whatever. So I tell her it should be okay, but all climbing is at your own risk. So if they have any medical issues, they should ask their doctor. Well, the day of their booking comes around, and it turns out the little people are actually like a dozen small children. This was a disaster because there is a strict 2 kids per 1 adult ratio for kids in the gym. And also kids aren't allowed to be laid until they've been assessed. So we pretty much had to tell them that they couldn't come inside. The lady goes off on me for ruining their weekend, and I have to get my manager to bail me out. After which he laughs his butt off and calls me an idiot for not understanding that she was talking about kids. Who the heck refers to children as little people? Was I really supposed to anticipate that this woman's use of an extremely specific term referred to another group of people entirely? Please help me out here. Am I the idiot? This is why people shouldn't use stupid, cutesy euphemisms for kids. Heck, I've worked with kids for over 30 years and never heard anyone refer to them as little people. Little ones, maybe. People? Either way, specificity matters. You're absolutely right. Little people is one of the accurate preferred terms used by people with various forms of dwarfism to self-describe. You were not at all an idiot, therefore, for making the assumption that you did. In the future, I might suggest that you clarify with the person calling, but was it a safe assumption? That woman was being cutesy and ridiculous. She should have just said children or kids. Instead, she used a non-specific term when it was unnecessary and then got upset when you misunderstood her. That was not on her, not you. Not the idiot. Next time when she means children, she can say children. Part of me suspects maybe this woman knew the rules and thought if she didn't mention the word kids, that was her green light to come and play that, but I was told I can. It sounds ridiculous, but I've worked in customer service and learned people are ridiculous. I really wish Up had responded to her arrival with, Oh, I said a group of little people was fine, but per hour rules. I was expecting them to be accompanied by the appropriate number of large people. But the idiot and your boss is wrong. How would you know that she wasn't referring to little people? Ladies should stop referring to children as little people to businesses who know nothing about her or her euphemisms. I think your boss is the idiot for calling you dumb. The people describes adults of smaller stature. Children are used to describe humans of any size under 18. Update few. I'm glad I'm not nuts, but I just want to clarify my boss didn't throw me under the bus. He told the lady very professionally to go away and quit bothering us, and then laughed at me afterward, because in retrospect, it is pretty funny. Hello, my name is John. I love cats, and then laughed at me afterward, because in retrospect, it is pretty funny.